Hello, everyone. It is 12 noon. Come on in and join me. Let me know if you're here when you get here. Put your name in the chat, in the comments. Let StreamYard see who you are. I want to wish everyone a happy new year. Welcome to 2022. I'm not going to be long today. I just wanted to open up the new year, and we're actually into our second, third week in the new year. Um, but I wanted just to come and encourage you and remind you of some things as you start this new year. You know, there are some things that we hear every year. There are things that we need to be reminded of, though, sometimes daily, sometimes quarterly, sometimes on an annual basis, but we need to be reminded. So as you come into the stream, come on in and let me know that you're here. Put your name in the comments and let StreamYard see who you are. So I hope that you all had a great end of the year, a great time with your family, friends, and that your new year has started strong. But if it has not, if it has not, you know that there is always room for growth, and we are growing all the time, all parts of the year. So we're all good. So I just want to share with you today, and I'm going to go ahead and get started because, I believe that leaders start on time, and just want to say to you that this 2022 can be your best year yet. Your best year yet. Whatever it is that you didn't do in 2021. Hi, Mary. How are you? Whatever you didn't do in 2022, you were able to 2021, you were able to do in 2022. And so I really want to talk to you about that today. And a lot of times why people don't get started or why they give up. And a lot of times it's because we're trying to start big when we really need to be starting small. I know. Excuse me. Big is the new thing. And my mantra is go big or go home. But when I say go big or go home, I'm talking about coming in and being fully engaged in what you're doing. Hello, how are you, Olivia? Oh, excuse me, I got a scratch in my throat. So I want to talk to you about, starting something big, small, in order to build something big. How many of you are starting something or have intention of start something new this year? Put in the chat if you intend to start something new this year. Hi, Doris. Evangelist Roberson, it's good to see you. So I want to encourage you that the main thing is to get started. A lot of times we have to be careful because we have, social media, we have other people that we're comparing ourselves to, not understanding that the most important thing to do is to get started. Get started on whatever it is you're doing. You may not know how to have all the answers. You may not know how to do everything. Get started. The Bible talks about not despising small beginnings. And this is so true. We hear it all the time. But a lot of times, hi Arlene, we actually despise small beginnings. Don't despise small beginnings because there are things that you need to learn that you learn in the small beginnings. But if you're taking time and you're resenting the small beginning, you don't learn the things that you need to learn. There are certain things that you need to learn in your business, in your ministry, in your career, that you don't want to learn it 10 years in. You don't want to learn it 8 years in. Hi, Shannon. Happy New Year. You don't want to learn it then. You want to learn it now. So the time to learn those lessons are in the beginning. So start out small. And anything that starts out small, most things that start out small, if you water them, if you water that seed, it is absolutely going to grow. The problem for many of us, we don't know when it's going to grow or how much it's going to grow and the timing. And I want to say to you this morning, that's not really your business. That's God's business. It really is not your business. Am I saying that you shouldn't know your numbers and track numbers and know where you are? Absolutely. But what happens is we want to plant the seed, we want to start it. Sometimes we want to water it, and then we want to be responsible for how it grows. And that is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to plant that seed and to water that seed and then to allow it to give it the best environment for it to grow. So the first tip I want to give you is to go ahead and get started. Start small. And you say, well, how small is too small? There's no such thing. Start small and learn the lessons that you need to learn along the way as you're starting in your growth process. Very good. Oh, wow. So start in that process where you're learning to grow and you're growing small. You're going to learn a lot of lessons. Um, and I'll give you, sometimes we despise small, even in terms of time. And I remember years ago, this was a long time ago, and my husband and I were probably in our 20s at the time, right? I would go out, I would go to the gym. I was at the gym an hour every day. All right. I had that kind of time, right? I was at the gym an hour every day. My husband was never a big guy. He's 6'2", and he's always been, in good shape. But he started going to the gym, but he would only go 20 minutes a day, right? And 3 days a week. And I would be like, what are you going to do in 20 minutes? Because I was the hour chick. I would go for the hour. I was a beast. I would be on the machines. I would be on cardio. I'd be in classes. And I just thought it was ridiculous that he would actually take time to go to the gym to spend 20 minutes and come back home. I thought it was ridiculous. And I remember laughing at it. But actually, as I watched him over the years, when I got off track, and I wouldn't go because I was like an all or nothing person. Look, I can't go for hours, so I'm not going. And the weight began to pile up. And I watched him get stronger and stronger as he would go for that 20 minutes. And then his 20 minutes at some point increased, to 45 minutes, increased to an hour. I tell you that because his willingness to start small, for 20 minutes, his willingness to start small, but to be consistent. Okay. I was at an hour and I was consistent with that hour until life took me on a path where I couldn't go for an hour. So I wouldn't go at all. You have to get pride and ego out of the way, and you have to embrace small. And because he embraced small, he always maintained his weight and was always in shape. Now I'm trying to get back there, right? And so now even if I get up and I spend 20 minutes doing cardio, I embrace the small. Because the next week is 30 minutes. Because when I first started out getting back into my exercise routine, oh my gosh, I got on the treadmill and couldn't stay there for 2 minutes. All right. But I refused to allow small to prevent me from being consistent in what I know I needed to do. So I want to say to you, start small. Start small. Because what happens when you don't start small and you're not willing to start small? You don't start at all. Have you ever been in a classroom with a person, on the program with a person, and you're starting together, and you didn't really want to do the small? They went ahead, they were inconsistent, they fumbled through it, and then you looked up 4 years from now, and this person is huge. I mean, they're doing some great things, and you're thinking, I started along with that person. Now you're doing a little comparison, but for this purpose, it's okay. The difference was they continued. They continued through the small. Hi, Roseanne. Hi, Ernestine. Hi, Sherry. They continued through the small. So I cannot express to you how wonderful it is for you to start small, but get started. So that's number one, get started. And when you start small, take care of the small things. Because the Bible also tells us that person that takes care of the small things, well, he'll make you ruler over much. We want to get to much without being a good ruler over small things. And if you're not a good ruler over small things, you will not be a good ruler over big things if you ever get to big. I think about the oak tree, and I was looking this up and thinking that the oak tree actually takes 30 to 35 years to come into maturity. When I think about Jesus himself and his ministry at 30 and having a powerful ministry at 3 years, you see, when you take time to grow and develop over the 30 years like Jesus did, then imagine what you can do in 3 years. Imagine what he did in 3 years. An oak tree takes 30 to 35 years to grow to full maturity. And they don't produce acorns until they're in between 50 and 100 years. So for those of you who are over 50 on this line, it's your time for you to produce. It's time for you to produce. It's not a time for you to sit back and say, well, I'm 50 or 60 years old or 70, and there's nothing left for me to do. If you're still breathing, there's something left for you to do. Start small. The next thing I think about is one of my mentors, John Maxwell, also said that most people do nothing because they could only do a little. Oh, that's powerful. When I first heard that, okay, it took me back, to my exercise gym days. But he said, most people do nothing because they can only do a little. When you really should do a little so that you can grow into doing much. So that God, a lot of times we are praying, those people of faith, we're praying for God to enlarge our territory. And he's saying, I want you to take care of the territory you already have. You're praying for me to enlarge your territory because, today, the bigger the better. Bigger is not always better, depending on where you are. I talk to people all the time about, businesses because I, do a lot of business, and I talk to them about building business and building their structure and putting their structure in place, and having multiple streams of income. And God wants you to have multiple streams of income, but you need to perfect something first. You need, and I say perfect it, I mean mature it. I don't mean everything has to be perfect. Mature something first so that you know how to do it. This is so important. Mature something first so you know how to do it instead of being driven by doing 5 things at one time when you don't know how to do 5 of those things well. You don't know how to do 5 of those things well. Right now, I could put up any business, whether I know a lot about the business or not, because I had the experience of building a law practice and to build that business over time with focus on how to build the business, what to do, what not to do, how to hire people, how to engage people, how to grow people. I had that experience over a long period of time. And so because I have that experience and that knowledge, I can take that experience and knowledge and I could put up 5 other businesses right now. What we are doing a lot of times is we want to be in that place of big, and we're not willing to go through the place of small. So your small things will turn into big when you do the small things well. Secondly, I want you to be consistent. The key is to be consistent. Start out with the small thing, water it, plant it first, water it, watch it grow, be consistent with it. Be consistent. Those people who plant. My mother loved flowers. She absolutely, as she was, she just loved flowers. She had a green thumb, but she was very consistent with her flowers and how she took care of her flowers. You cannot plant something one day, not water it for 10 days, and come back and think that that thing is going to grow. And certainly not if you're in business or ministry or in your career, that's not going to happen. One of the things my husband said to me, he said, Barbara, you gave me some advice almost 30 years ago. He said, and it bode well for me in my career. I guess we were talking, then we were young in our careers. We were starting out. I was in corporate America. He was practicing medicine. And I said to him one day, I said, remember this, that people are, what have you done for me lately? So the fact that I won a trial yesterday for that client, and I won another trial 2 weeks ago for another client 3 weeks ago. Yes, people came to me because of my reputation of winning. But they don't care about that once they get to me. They care about, can you produce now for me what you previously produced? What have you done for me lately? Okay. And he said, in his practice, in his medical practice, he always remembered that. So every patient that comes in, he said, Barbara, is a new patient. And even though I've had success with the 5, 10, 15, 30, 50 patients ahead before them, this patient, this client, this person that's sitting in front of me, they're interested in what I can do for them. And the only way you learn that is by consistency and by taking care of the small things. If you never learn to take care of the small things, even if you have something that grows, it will grow to a point where the small things will be the things that derail you. If you do not learn to take care of the small things, when you grow, and if you grow, because there are people you say, well, they don't take care of the small things, Barbara, and I've seen them grow. Yes. And I'm telling you, after 30 years of practicing law, I've seen people grow companies and they get to a point that what derails them in their business, what sends them into bankruptcy, is always the small things that they take care of in the beginning. Take care of the small things. And third, be a master of the step process. One step after another. Martin Luther King, we celebrated his birthday on yesterday and everything that he did for civil rights and humanity. But Martin Luther King said this. He said, faith is taking the first step, even though you can't see the whole staircase. My friend, stop trying to see the entire staircase and take the first step. Become a master at that step. And then take the next step. Become a master at that step. And the third step will appear. We are waiting for steps to appear when we never took the first step. And I'll share this with you as I close today. I remember two things. I remember that there were some things that in my quiet time, in my prayer time, over the course of my business career, that God has spoken to me. When I was transitioning from law into personal development, one of the things that he said to me was, run your own race. Run your own race. And I thought, oh yeah, I know what that means, run my own race. It wasn't until I started developing this company that I understood really what he meant. He understood that I was in a different time, that I needed to run my own race and not look at what everybody else was doing. Run your own race. It's the race that has been set before you. Run your own race. Great advice. The other thing was to learn each day and to take that next step. And don't be afraid to have a mentor, to have someone who sits in front of you. I tell people all the time, when you have a mentor, you need to know how to engage a mentor. A mentor is not there to know how much you know. So sometimes we engage mentors and we're there and we're telling them how much we know. No, you're there to learn. So learn and move, learn and move, learn and move. And don't sit and be a student of learning and never engage. Because you can be a student of learning and I'm learning how to do it, and you could be there 10 years and never engage. It is the person who takes the first step, becomes a master of that step, and then they engage. They are master at that next step, and then they engage. It doesn't mean that they don't have seeds planted other places or seeds that are supposed to be planted other places. They have determined, I'm going to master this, because mastery attracts people. Mastery attracts people. You can only do a superficial business at or ministry or whatever you're doing. You can only do it superficially for so long. At the end of the day, people are going to go for mastery. They're going to go for mastery. We are in an age where, it looks good. And I'm doing a new piece on leading beyond the optics. We've got to learn to lead beyond the optics. It's not what you're trying to show people. It's actually what are they seeing when they get a little deeper below the surface. There are some things that occur in our lives that you can't see because on the surface, they may not show up. I think of mold. Mold doesn't show up for a long time or a while. And that wall or that place looks perfectly fine, and then mold shows up. It's been there for a while. So what I'm saying to you is master. This year, start small and master the small thing. Then move to the next thing and master the next thing. Master it. Don't move 5, 6, 7 different places and you've mastered nothing. Being a jack of all trades and the master of none may be popular today, but in the end, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. So my friend, as you start this new year of 2022, start small. Be masterful at what you're starting. Be consistent at what you're doing, and it will take you to big places. And when you get to those big places, you'll have more discernment, you'll have more wisdom, you'll have more knowledge because you started small and you took the time to learn the process and the steps along the place, and it will sustain you in your big. So as you ask God to enlarge your territory this year, go ahead and pray that prayer of enlarging your territory. But in the meantime, take care of the small. This is Barbara Littles, and I'm glad that you're on today. Great to see you, Maggie Jean. Great to see you, Michelle. Great to see you, L'Oreal. Make your next move, but make sure you master that step before you move on. Love you all. Have a great rest of your January. Bye-bye.